I went on an audition for this Latino-based theater company called Vaso de Leche, and it was in a theater company that worked with Latino playwrights, working with Latino actors, and I auditioned for one of their shows, and I was so excited to be working with Latinos because I'm Puerto Rican, Puerto Rican American, and I wanted to be a part of that, and I got cast as Karen, the Italian mafia princess, and I'm like, yo, I'm Puerto Rican, what's going on? But to be honest with you, I didn't have quite that Latina look. Mm-hmm. I've always been, people think I'm Italian. I grew up in a very Italian neighborhood in the Bronx, and so I have many of those characteristics. Mm. And so I loved working with this company, and I went on to do a lot more plays for them. Original, amazing plays with these incredibly talented playwrights.
And Vaso de Leche means?
Glass of milk, cup of milk, glass of milk.
What is that? Where do they get that name from for their company?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, but it's Vaso de Leche, glass of milk. Yes.
Excellent. So how long were you with them?
Wow, for a few years. I did several plays. I did, I'm really going back now. I did, the first one I did was called Shop Hell, and it was a great comedy about the supermarket and these supermarket workers where there was murders taking place. It was so much fun. These guys are so talented. Jesse Mojica was the first playwright that I worked with, and that I worked with Carlos Ortiz, Carlos Serrano. Please forgive me, Carlos. Carlos Serrano. I did the Ortiz Sisters of Mott Haven with him. Great play, all-female cast, all Latina. And I did several other plays with them. So I kind of felt like I really found a theater family that I connected with and just absolutely loved the whole experience. And that was the beginning of me going into other areas that I never. Let me just backtrack a little.
Okay.
So when I was younger and dealing with my depression, I did a lot of poetry. And the poetry was very dark and very much a way for me to get what I was feeling down on the page. If I could get what I was feeling down on the page, I could feel better. It was sort of like, for a lack of better words, sort of regurgitating the pain onto the page.
Just channeling it through the pen.
I had to do something with it, or it was really going to eat me up alive. And so I did a lot of writing. So writing was always something that I felt was good for me. So when I got into Vaso de Leche, and I worked with all these incredible playwrights and watched how they, started working their work, I was inspired to try my own thing, to write, and I did. And my first play that I wrote was called Dirty Laundry, and it just consisted of two females, one younger, one older, and dealing, basically, it was about, a younger girl who was, these two women that meet in a laundromat, they become friends, and that's the only time they really ever see each other, and they create a bond. And how, basically what I was trying to get across in this play was how a person that you could meet for a short amount of time can really impact your life, can change your life. And so that play, Vaso de Leche, helped me with it. Jesse Mojica helped me with it. And it was amazing. It was amazing to actually put words on paper, work it through, get the actors. I was one of the actors in the play, and it was just a process. the whole creative process was great, and the play did pretty well in, the stages of New York. We went into the Midtown International Theater Festival with the play. We did very well with audience members. We did the play at Shetler Studios. So the play went around. We did it also at the Producers Club in New York City. So my guest star, Linda Ortiz, was the actress that I worked with. Phenomenal actress. So Deborah Ortiz, Linda Ortiz.
Happy coincidence?
Yeah, whatever. She's one of my best friends, and we just did. It was just great working with her. Then it was great working with her. So that was my first play.
What was the inspiration for Changing Violet?
Now we're going to get into deep stuff here.
Yeah.
Well, in writing Dirty Laundry, like one of the topics in Dirty Laundry that was addressed was depression. And I was able to address the depression aspect of my life. Like everything that I write has some aspect of my life in it. So the experience of being able to write a play that actually helped, work through some of my own issues, I then decided to write a one-woman show based on some of the stuff in my life, and again using it as a sounding board, and really wanting to get a message out to other women who suffer with depression or dealt with domestic violence, which was something I dealt with in my first marriage, that there is hope and that there is a way through the darkness. So my one-woman show is really about a girl who grows up in the Bronx, who dealt with quite a bit of trauma, dealt with severe depression, suicidal feelings, got into a really bad marriage, which dealt with mental and physical abuse, and how, I was able to get out of that, and struggled with drugs and alcohol, and tried to find a way through that darkness, and was able to do that. So I wrote the play, and then I went to see a show that I was invited to of a girl named Terry Muse, who has a one-woman show. I was invited to see that, and her subject matter was very close to mine, and her show was phenomenal. And after the show, I spoke to her, and I said that I was working on something. It wasn't called Changing Violet then. It was called My Knight in Shining Armor. I asked her if she would read it. She did, and she helped me to make changes in the one-woman piece, and then she helped me adapt it for the stage, and then she directed me, and we called it Changing Violet. And the reason it's called Changing Violet is because we have a huge clothesline on the stage with articles of clothing, and each article of clothing represents a different time in Violet's life. So there's all this changing going on during the changes in her life. And the play did really well. We did quite a few performances throughout New York, and I was invited to go out to Texas to perform for the U.S. Army for their week of sexual awareness, because of abuse that the Army deals with for women. There's sexual harassment or sexual assaults on women, and showing the impact that has on a woman. That Army actually brought me in to show the impact of abuse on women, and it was a very interesting experience.
How did the Army...
on men. And on men. Yeah.
How did the Army find you to get you to come to this?
It was insane. They found me on the internet.
Wow. And they just wanted to... You did the entire show for them?
I did 3 shows.
Oh, wow.
For the first show was a small audience, and the second show was over 500 soldiers, and the third show as well.
So when it comes to writing, do you approach the material the same way for each thing you write, or is there a different technique for, say, a play as opposed to a screenplay?
Yeah, so everything that I write has to be something that has impacted me on a very I write what I know, you know, so that's what they say, write what you know, and I write what I know. And what I know, unfortunately, has been some deep pain. But I also know hope, and I also know that there is a way through it. So I decided to start working on screenplays because I wanted to expand my writing experience. And I think so what I did was I adapted Changing Violet into a screenplay. Which is called Sweet Child of Mine. And that was my first time, you know, trying to write a screenplay. Again, I used a lot of creative license, and I wrote my first screenplay. And it's very, you know, simple screenplay about a girl struggling to find, you know, her way. And so I was like, okay, wow, I did this. This is great. And then I started. So then what happened was, I got remarried throughout this whole time to my husband Michael, and an amazing man who was during the time that we met was a state trooper and a federal agent for, you know, the Drug Enforcement Task Force. And I met him, and we got married, and he was 100% supportive of everything I was doing creatively. So, you know, I'm still doing stuff in New York. I was working with a dinner theater company called the New York Dinner Theater Company. I was doing interactive dinner theater.
How did you find it?
It was on an audition and backstage.
You just said, let me give it a try.
Yeah. And it was actually my first paid acting gig.
Oh, really?
Yes. My first paid acting gig. Everything else that I did was free, you know, just for the experience. I did as much as I could, you know, do just to get all the experience I can get to learn everything that I possibly can. And then there was an audition, and they were looking for New York Italian types, and I'm like, oh, I can do that. And so I went, and I got hired immediately, and I was with them for 10 years. Wow. I traveled all over Long Island, New Jersey, New York, just everywhere, like almost on a weekly basis, doing The Godfather's Meshuggah Wedding, Joey and Mary's Irish-Italian Comedy Wedding, Let's Kill the Boss, Murder Mystery. And I made some amazing friends there as well. And I did that for 10 years. 10 years. 10 wonderful memories. And I learned so much. So going back to, so I'm doing all this. And then my husband, who's a cop, you know, we started having some personal struggles. He retired. There was some stuff going on, like really in our marriage that I really had no idea what was happening. He seemed like, I don't know. All I saw was that we were getting further apart, and that neither one of us knew what was happening, and I didn't know how to handle it. He didn't know how to handle it. We decided to leave New York after his retirement to come to Florida to kind of try to, you know, I don't know, it was kind of like a desperate attempt for us to get out of New York City and away from the work that he had done. Came to New York.
Florida.
Came to Florida. My husband was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and from the work that he did as a law enforcement officer for 22 years.
And you had a daughter together, too.
And we had a little girl. Yes, we did. And we still do.
Yes. So you came down here, and so where did you channel your creativity in Florida?
So I come to Florida, and I am like I'm dying, okay? I'm dying. I'm like,
How long ago, actually?